with desires to make as much money as possible in the present, talking as if the destruction of our green spaces will do no significant damage. It is a matter of principle that nothing should be permitted to stand in the way of the preservation of our green spaces and of our distinct rural communities. It is immoral to permit developers to make gain for themselves through the destruction of our green spaces at the enormous cost of irrecoverable loss of our green and present land for future generations. Mr. Mayor, it is this administration's failure to produce a local plan, despite having 14 years to have done so. Their failure to attract and work with developers to deliver enough affordable housing projects for rural people. Their failure to seek innovative solutions, to build upwards, to increase density, to change land use, to use our waters, to tackle thousands of empty homes, to encourage building in thousands of developments where planning permission has already been granted, to build over commercial space, to build over car parks, all of which are solutions which are supported by the Campaign for the Protection of Rural England. Solutions exist if those in charge are willing to put what is right above what is easy. Their failures now put our green spaces in clear and present danger. They are in charge here. The buck stops with them. If they allow our green spaces to develop, then they are responsible for the future loss to our future generations of Wirral.
1 minute.
And when future generations ask, why did you, the Labour Party, give up our spaces, our green spaces, for profiteers to destroy our natural environment, to build luxury homes and golf resorts, while building on golf courses already existing like the Brackenwood? What are you going to tell them? Mr. Mayor, the numbers appear wrong. They are too big, by around at least 4,500 houses based on updated population figures, and possibly by over 7,500 houses when taking into account economic projections, according to the independent modelling by Professor Gregg. Mr. Mayor, the morals are wrong of profit before conservation. Mr. Mayor, the plan is wrong, and they should go back to the drawing board and start again with a plan that truly protects the jewel in Wirral's crown, our green spaces.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh God.
I'd like to start by saying I don't think there's a councillor in this chamber who wants to build on the green belt. Not one. So we're all agreed on that. Sherry Pogle said before, this is not party political. This meeting is highly political. That's what it's all about. It's about the opposition, and I don't blame you, scoring political points. We're here, as Brian Kenny said, we're here in the middle of a consultation, a public consultation. So any votes taken tonight are completely meaningless. Now let's start this premise by telling people that we are 3.5 million homes short in this country, and we need to build homes. We need to build homes. Now we talk about the precious green belt, and it is precious, of course it is. 46% of the Wirral is green belt. We are unique here because we are a peninsula, so we can't build outwards because we'd be building in the sea. We've got 46%. Most of that 46% in Wirral West, where I live, and Wirral South. And what we should do as a council is we should collect all the information we can. We take it back to the government. This consultation is going to be 99%, 100% against building on the green belt. We've got to get, as a council, we've got to collate all the empirical evidence, look at the demographics of the Wirral, look at the demographics, thank you Phil, the demographics of the Wirral, and we've got to look at where we need to build the homes, where we need to build them. In my ward, and I'm here to represent the residents of my ward tonight, who are overwhelmingly against building on the green belt. Of course they are. Of course they are.
1 minute.
We need to go back to government, and if necessary, we need to take the government to court. Mr. Mayor, I did want to get in. This all started under Margaret Thatcher. With the right to buy. And I laugh when I hear the Tories over there. It makes me about when they're talking about greedy developers, greedy capitalists, I might add. Greedy capitalists. It started with Margaret Thatcher with the right to buy, who deprived councils of using that money to build more council housing. We need social, I didn't shout when you were speaking, Andrew. I didn't shout. We need social housing, we need affordable housing.
You can't build social housing anymore.
Now listen, Mr. Mayor, where I live 35 years ago was Greenbelt. Where my children all went to school, Lady Mount in Pensby, and my grandchildren are going there now, 40 years ago, it was Greenbelt. The houses that we all live in, and you people in the gallery, your houses were built, social housing anymore. Greenbelt. So it was all right for our houses to be built on Greenbelt, but we're not going to allow over my dead body are they going to be built on Greenbelt. Look at yourself.
Why did you vote for it then in 2016?
And look at this government and what they're doing. I urge the council to get all the evidence, and if necessary, and they talk about Peel Holdings, I wouldn't believe a word out of Richard Mosley's mouth. That's only my opinion. That's only my opinion. So all the hot air which I contributed now tonight, let's use all the evidence, if necessary, to take this government to court and defend our interests. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Brewster. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the new members tonight on the maiden speeches: Liz Gray, Tony Cox, Mary Jordan and Andrew Gardner. Mr. Mayor, the local plan proposed to build 12,000 homes over a 15-year period in response to the central government national housing building targets. I would suggest that the ruling authority should be challenging the figures that the Ministry of Housing has deemed necessary to build on the Wirral to accommodate predicted population forecasts. The future of patterns of population growth on the Wirral do not support the forecast for 12,000 additional homes.
Correct.
Wirral's population is less now than it was in 1981, and the proposed growth is an additional 10,898 people by 2036. This increased figure of 332,000 will still not exceed the 1981 population of 338,000. The government document, Planning for the Right Homes in the Right Places, says to save time and money, the government expects local planning authorities to adopt the government proposed method. However, there may be compelling circumstances not to adopt the proposed approach. These will need to be justified and will be subject to examination. We have a piece of work by Professor Gregg which suggests that there are compelling circumstances not to adopt the government proposed method, and we should use that analysis to challenge the government figures. According to analysis by Professor Gregg, we could be looking at 4,300 homes in total, compared to 12,000 by the government prediction. Regardless of whose figures are correct, we still have the capacity to build future homes on brownfield sites without destroying our precious green belt. 1 minute, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Chris Caribbean.
Well, it's interesting listening to all these things. I wasn't speaking to those either. But I'm confused about all these figures, to be fair. I've heard lots of different figures, and I'm trying to find out what the exact figures are.
Do your homework.
So can somebody give me the real figures when we've got the discussion and such? Because at the moment, I'm hearing 1,480 plus 60. No idea what the housing numbers are. The second thing is, people are saying, Dr. Kenny here and was told by, you were told by the leader of the council to listen to the people. Well, that's interesting because 8,000 petitions stopped the car parking charges on the promenades, but a 32,000 petition did not stop the car parking charges in the country parks. And in the last council meeting, when I asked why not, I was told categorically it will never change. So, my concern is about this consultation that we're in the middle of. Is it going to go the same as all the other consultations? And I'm sure the general public believe that the consultations are just a box-ticking exercise. It's a box-ticking exercise because we have to do it legally. My last bit, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, is there was a statement made before, and I forget who made the statement. I think it might have been Councillor, he's not here now, but he said that no councillor in this chamber wants to build on the green belt. Everybody agrees with that, did we not? Is that not preconception then? Could we ask this for Borough Solicitor if that council preconception? Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Predetermination.
I'm delighted to be brought in. No, I would take that comment as predisposition. No one wants to. The question at the end of this is will you have to or not, and how you get to the position of being able to evidence what the eventual outcome will be.
Councillor Cathy Hodson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to congratulate those on their maiden speech, Liz Gray, Mary Jordan, Andrew Gardner, Tony Cox and Mike Sullivan. Mr. Mayor, if the Labour administration had got its finger out in 2004, some 14 years ago, and submitted an accurate urban development plan for the Wirral based on factual evidence of housing requirements and taking into consideration the necessary demographic information to support a sustainable UDP, then central government would not have had to intervene to force them into doing so, using an arbitrary figure of 12,000 homes, thus prompting an ill-thought-out and knee-jerk response. Let's look at some of the facts. There's somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 empty houses on the Wirral. There are adequate brownfield sites to cover more than 12,000 houses, and Wirral Waters to plan to build 6,000 homes, plus other associated projects, with the ultimate target of 13,000 homes achievable at Wirral Waters beyond the local plan period. So why has this Labour administration even suggested that building on greenbelt land is required? This administration has let Birkenhead slide into ever further decline over the last 20 years. Major retailers are shut and the Wirral Water scheme is behind schedule. This Labour administration have let down, in fact abandoned, the very people they purport to care about and represent, their core Labour voters. Mr. Mayor, they would rather take the easy option of allowing developers to build luxury-band G&H houses on greenbelt land to maximise their council tax base. And let's be clear, there will be no affordable homes built on greenbelt land.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, could this be a cynical plot by the Labour administration to keep Birkenhead poor and abandoned? Every good place to live and work, decent affordable housing and infrastructure, bringing home ownership to many more because they might just vote Conservative in the lazy and cynical approach to house building on the Wirral shows that in fact they are for the few, not the many. The few that can afford to buy luxury houses built on greenbelt and not the many who could not. Mr. Mayor, those sitting on the opposite benches, poised like vultures to sell off the crown jewels of the Wirral greenbelt to the highest bidder are really just closet capitalists.
Councillor Wendy Clements.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, there's a bit of a holiday.
from concerned local residents. They're feeling let down, they're feeling worried, they're feeling actually some of them extremely stressed, as we referenced earlier, because they think that a load of houses are going to appear outside their home any minute now. I told them that we would do our best to stop that, Mr. Mayor, because they're distressed that this Labour Council seems to be preparing to take huge chunks out of the Greenbelt. In fact, Mr. Mayor, with all the proposals that are being put forward, the Greenbelt in my ward looks as if it could shrink to something extremely skimpy, like this Greenbelt I was given outside the town hall earlier this evening. Mr. Mayor, I strongly believe that Wirral is special because of the green spaces that we have, which benefit us all. And, Mr. Mayor, we see proposals like in my ward affecting Greensby Copse, which is a very special area. It's rich in wildlife and species. It's also rich in archaeological history. In Irby, we see the map drawing round Harrop Wood, which is a National Trust property. And Mr. Mayor, all this greenbelt land, it's been suggested, would yield 71,000 homes. So I'm not sure why we're looking at quite so many bits of our precious greenbelt. Mr. Mayor, together, we need to protect and do all that we can to look after our precious greenbelt. And I commend those members who've spoken in their maiden speeches this evening to support the Greenbelt: Councillor Liz Gray, Andrew Gardner, Mary Jordan and Tony Cox. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jim Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, of course, I want to congratulate Liz, Mary, Tony and Andrew for their maiden speeches. They're really very good speeches, and I'm sure we'll enjoy them even more next time. I also want to congratulate Cathy Hodgson for the such enthusiasm as I've never seen since the day when she married Andrew. I also congratulate Andrew for having confided to this chamber that there are certain circumstances in which he might consider leaving the Conservative Party, and I think I can confide further that I've heard him before now say that he's actually got more friends on this side of the chamber than he has on that side. So that's the two of them. So Mr. Mayor, no, I won't name names. But I mean, the plain fact of the matter is that this country is in a huge housing crisis. I could spend a bit of time going back to the period after the First World War. This Cameron, Clegg, May government has built fewer houses than any government then. But after that, Conservative governments, year after year, decade after decade, built huge swathes of social housing on greenfield sites when they were needed. Now, let's not have quite as much politicastering from that side of the House. You've done it when you needed to do it. And your government is now saying, and we agree with them, that we would do it if we had to, as an absolute last resort. But everybody who's spoken in this chamber this evening is agreed that none of us want to build on greenfield sites. So this really ought to be a time when we're trying to actually accept the unanimity in that there is on every side of the House, at the chamber rather, instead of making a political catfight, a dogfight, out of something which we should be all pulling together within the same direction. We want a consultation because we believe that the public will tell us what they want, and by going through this consultative process, we're doing the proper thing. So let's stop all this silly nonsense from the other side and join with us and help us in finding out exactly what the people of Wirral do want.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations to Liz Gray, Tony Cox, Mary Jordan and Andrew Gardner on the maiden speech. Mr. Mayor, we have heard all the figures about the Greenbelt and the possible plans for it. I am more concerned with people, the residents. I've received so many emails, phone calls and even residents stopping me in the street protesting against these possible proposals. Not a single person has had any sort of argument in favour of the destruction of any of our green belts. The one word that strikes me most is R. O-U-R. Almost every email and during each conversation, everybody uses the word R. Our green belt, our future, our children, our open spaces. I feel this is most significant is that no one is calling it the councils, the governments, the country's green belt, but ours. Surely, Mr. Mayor, this demonstrates the strength of feeling of community belonging and a possessional deep passion to preserve our green belt. As we all know, once it's gone forever.
Councillor Jerry Ellis.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed, and apologies again for being late in coming along here this evening. Many congratulations on our four maiden speeches tonight. There's Tony and Andrew and Mary. I know you're only listening to this for a short time, and it's a great start, and look forward to hearing you again. I've only got one issue tonight, Mr. Mayor, because I've listened to what everybody else has said. I think it's all now been covered, hasn't it, really? But I just want to have the one single issue which I've been plugging away at for a while, and yes, you won't guess, you'll easy guess. It's the issue of the green belt being decimated on Hoylett Golf, the proposed Hoylett Golf Resort. I just cannot cope, Phil, with the idea. Oh, wait, not listening. I cannot cope with the idea of 106 executive houses on a lovely golf course. You live the same area, and that strip of land along the side of the Mellside golf course, and Railway, where you're now planning to offer 160 executive homes. What a decimation of lovely green belt area. Now, for us a Tory, I'd be quite happy to have 160 high-priced executive homes. We get quite I'm sure we get quite expensive homes, but we just don't want that part of all of our green belt. It's a showpiece. It's an area that everybody sees. So I want you. We feel. I was the first one in this council chamber a couple of 2 or 3 years ago to stand up and say we don't want the golf club. I know you were horrified to hear a local Tory councillor saying that. But when I first supported the idea, there was no talk of building on the green belt. There was no talk about building houses. There was no view at all about the possibility of all the decimating of the land for natural resources.
1 minute.
Thank you. I'll only take a moment. Phil, you are the one person in this council chamber I could just snap your fingers and say to your colleagues, we're not going, oh no, you can do it. You've done it. You've done it with other things. You can say to your colleagues, Phil, come on, I've only got a minute left, so less than a minute. Phil, are you listening? You are the one person that could go back to cabinet and say, we've got to drop this idea. It's costing too much money. It's a terrible waste economically, and it's a decimation of our green belts. So let's just drop the idea. You're quite good at dropping ideas. You drop the idea of other things quite readily. So just go, please, will you do that for us? Because it really is this. And it's going to happen one day. If it doesn't happen in the next day or two when you tell them to stop it, it will go eventually. So let's have an announcement for you very shortly, Phil, that we've abandoned the idea of the golf resort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I truly wasn't going to speak here tonight. Most of what I want to say is obviously been said by councillors, but other colleagues. But first of all, my congratulations to Councillors Gardner, Cox, Mary Jordan and Councillor Gray on their maiden speeches. Mr. Mayor, in all the years that I've been on this council, I've witnessed quite a number of consultation exercises, and I've approached all of them, I have to say, with great cynicism. And I'm afraid that this one clearly doesn't fill me with any better feeling than all those of the last, because people who I speak to are quite consultation exercises that this council purports to take on board. My inbox has never been fuller. In the 27 years that I've been on this council, not one person has written to me agreeing with the sentiments expressed by Councillor Davis. And Phil, you and I came on the council at the same time, and I am surprised that in all that time that you have decided now to absolutely inflict this worry, this grief and this harm on the people of Wirral. I've met people who have cried on my shoulder around shopping centres because they feel that the green belt that they, their families and future generations hold so dear to their hearts is going to be absolutely decimated. And the reason for that lies clearly at the feet of Councillor Davis and his administration. You cannot hide behind the smokescreen, Councillor Davis, that this is all the doings, as you say, a wicked Tory government. Not at all. Why on earth have you not produced that local plan? Why on earth have you not? Mr. Mayor,
Did it on your watch?
they haven't produced a plan, and then they're surprised when they get a letter from the Secretary of State telling them that they better get their act together. And lo and behold, Mr. Mayor, when Councillor Davis does give back some pathetic response to the government, they tell him that it's inadequate. Well, haven't we all heard that word, inadequate? Yes, here we go, Councillor Davis. Inadequate on your response to the council and to the government, and clearly, Councillor Davis, inadequate to the children, the vulnerable children in this borough. That is twice in 27 years have this Labour member and this Labour administration been referred to as inadequate. They should hang their heads in shame. Absolutely. Mr. Mayor,
disgrace.
There is nobody on Wirral who wants this. We have our Wirral plan, which talks about having people who are healthy from all sides of the borough. People are healthy because they enjoy a decent lifestyle, and you are going to decimate that lifestyle. Mr. Mayor, we want people from all sides of the borough to have a healthy, happy life, and their well-being is clearly going to be decimated if these particular plans go ahead. So, Councillor Davis, next time you sit at your desk with pen in hand, write back to the government and say to them, have a look at the figures produced by Professor Gregg, who clearly is an eminent professor of great knowledge. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate Liz for an eloquent and considered made speech, as well as Tony, Mary and Andrew. I have to say, Mr. Mayor, within this Labour group we have people who have campaigned passionately for the Green Belt for years, and the leader of this council has outlined it as the jewel in the crown of this peninsula. We've heard passionate defences of it tonight from both sides. Why would a group of people like this open a consultation unless they were forced? Mr. Mayor, members of the public gallery have to ask why, at the start of this meeting, the party opposite did not want to hear from an officer whose responsibility it is to give us the impartial truth. Because they aren't interested
Well,
in the
where his life works.
Because they aren't interested in the fact.
That's where his life works then.
They're interested in political gain. Because in order to protect the Green Belt, we should really be banging on the government's door. Members of the public should write to members of the party opposite, asking them to write to their government, put pressure on their government to stop imposing house building figures on our peninsula.
Section 44.
You should all engage.
Look at your own compendium of statistics. You don't even know about it, do you?
You should all engage in the consultation, and if you wish, opposed, but it is clear that the government is to blame for these housing targets, and that Councillor Jones's suggestion that we should all work together on this issue will never happen, because the party opposite isn't prepared to give up the political gains in order to actually hold their government to account.
Non-party
Thank Members, I want to hear Councillor Ian Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, that's been nice. The public, some of the public, a small number are watching film. Tonight, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to begin by thanking all those residents, including many who are in the public gallery or beyond, who contacted me and members of the Conservative group, and for Councillor Norbury's understanding, I'm the leader of the Conservative group. The Conservative group opposes building on the green belt. Just so we're clear where the Conservative group stands, in the absence of any other evidence, we do not support building on the green belt. Councillor Norbury accuses us of hiding behind other people's colours. Some could say the same thing about members of Momentum. Mr. Mayor, when we come on, we look at history, we look at what people have done rather than what people have said tonight. We look at the Labour Party opposite when they say they are supporting the green belt. They didn't support the green belt at Wallasey. They didn't support the green belt at Fender Farm. They didn't support the green belt at Fernbank Farm. And they didn't support the green belt at Hoylake. In fact, as my excellent colleague, Councillor Davis, Councillor Ellis, has outlined tonight, not only is Councillor Davis not protecting the green belt at Hoylake, it is Councillor Davis and his administration that is directly putting that land at risk with his folly of a golf resort that half the borough doesn't want and the other half wouldn't use. Mr. Mayor, this isn't question time, Councillor Davis. This is railed against top-down targets because once again they want to blame other people for their own failings. They blame Peel. Well, the letter from Richard Maudsley kind of blows that one out of the water. And for a leader of a council who has protested for years about austerity and the need to attract investment into this borough, to upset a major investor because of the lies that has been told is appalling.
Mr. Mayor, order, please.
When Councillor Lewis, until he qualified it, first spoke, he accused me of telling lies. I think he needs to really consider whether
sit down.
Gone across the line, and I'd invite him to withdraw that comment. Thank you,
Councillors, would you like to rephrase?
Mr. Mayor, I would refer the Leader of the Council to the letter from the Head of Peel. That makes it quite clear that, Councillor Davies, you have been told things and that you've not passed that information on and you have misrepresented Peel. You use your own language, Councillor Davies. Hard evidence. And if anybody hasn't seen this letter, Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to say it's now available at www.wirral.com/green. Is Councillor Lewis accusing me of lying, yes or no? Mr. Mayor, it's no. I know what he's trying to do, Mr. Mayor. He's trying to deflect like he always deflects. If he's got a problem, take it up with Richard Maudsley. We will now move on, Mr. Mayor, to the consultation from the Ministry of Housing in September 2017, barely a year ago, when the Ministry of Housing wrote to this council and every council and asked for their views on setting a national housing target. Mr. Mayor, the Ministry of Housing asked this council 32 different questions on whether we supported a national housing target and the formula. And guess what? Councillor Davis and his administration didn't respond. Presumably, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Liptrot didn't have access to his word processor that night.
Not fit for purpose.
Without conclusion, Councillor Lewis.
Sorry?
Time.
In conclusion, Mr. Mayor, the Secretary of State for Housing at the time said that this council had a consistent failure to deliver a local plan since the last plan was adopted in 2000. In the meantime, we've had 14 years of excuses, 14 years of excuses, 1 year of which was led by the Conservative Council, 13 years, unlucky for Wirral, led by Councillor Davis and his predecessor. Since then, we now have leaflets being delivered by the Labour Party promising top-down housing targets of 500,000 houses a year, plus the biggest ever expansion of council house building. Now that will delight Councillor Norbury and Councillor Bird, but it doesn't quite fit with the group's opposite when they're saying they're against top-down housing targets. Mr Mayor, the group opposite, this motion tonight from them is not about saving the Greenbelt, it's about saving their own failing administration as momentum on the hard left are snapping for them. I from the issues, and in the meantime, you've wound up the public of Wirral by misleading them, by saying their green belt is at risk. It is not. It is your record that is at risk, not their green belt.
Now, in the absence of any further speakers, we move to seconders. Councillor Burgess-Joyce, the seconder of the Conservative motion. You now have up to 3 minutes to speak to the motion.
Dear, I have to say I had something very beautifully written. I know it's unusual, I normally read off the cuff, but I did actually have something very interesting to say. But in fairness, most of it has been said by far more intelligent people than I. But what is important is that we in this chamber, we are bastions to protect what is beautiful about the Wirral. Now, the people opposite might say that I was a bigger bastion than maybe some others, but in fairness, we are the people who hold in trust what is precious to everybody in this room. What has been said, thank you, Councillor, what has been said about people outside of the Wirral, I really couldn't care less about. I'm not interested whether any Conservative or Labour or any other politician said anything of any interest about the Wirral. I am only interested in what I think about the Wirral and what those people think about the Wirral. Most of the Labour people are here today, but obviously clearly some people couldn't be bothered. And clearly it's not that important. It's already been said by a number of people. It's already been said by a number of people here today. Why on earth did we call a special council? Well, you know why we called a special council? Because you're the leader. I'm over here. You're the leader of the council. There's a clue in the title. You're the leader of the council. And what we're looking for is leadership. Leadership is what you're supposed to be giving us. We're not in power. You are. And you spend your time talking about consultation to basically... Are you that upset about what I'm saying? Well, when... Oh, sorry. Hold my arms. 1 minute. Hold my arms. You are the leader of this council. You are the person who holds the power in this council, and you are the people that the people of Wirral look to for that leadership. We're not getting it, because what happens with this council is that time after time we spend our time listening to you with another alternative, another plan, whether it's anti-dog plans, whether it's anti-car plans. Then you put it out to public consultation, and surprise, surprise, like the 7th Cavalry, you run in, and everything's overturned, and it's all wonderful, because you're listening to the people. You're listening to the people. But sadly, the problem here is you're going to listen to the people good and proper at the end of this consultation, because next May, you
Councillor Davis Burgess-Joyce.
You owe me 500 quid for yours, bet.
Thank you, Councillor Burgess-Joyce. Now, Councillor Stuart Kelly, the seconder of the amendment to the Liberal Democrat motion, you now have up to 3 minutes to speak to that amendment.
Mr. Mayor, if I do that, enjoy my right to reply.
Up to you. Fine. Yeah. Right. So then we move on to Councillor Dave Mitchell, a seconder of the Liberal Democrat motion. You now have up to 3 minutes to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start off by congratulating the second time round, but I hope you are. Liz did a brilliant speech, and congratulations. I hope to hear more from you. Mary and Andrew, excellent speeches. Tony, I've heard you before, so there you go. What I would like to say, Mr. Mayor, is we've heard so much different figures bandied around tonight in relation to what is required and what is not required, and what people believe we should have. Professor Gregg has been very helpful to lots of members on the authority by sending us a breakdown of all the figures in relation to all the different points. One point that sticks out in my mind is that the WC's own compendium of statistics this year gives the latest ONS forecast of population to 2038. Using this data and the official housing information rate used in the SMAHA 2016 consultants reports yields much lower housing needs than the council and the government have stated. Those estimates are way out, and I think that's the point of the whole problem that we've got today. We've been told by government we've got to do a particular process of reviews in need of housing. The process that they are using is well out of date. It's well out of date in relation to the amount of people that live on the Wirral, it's well out of date of what's required on the Wirral, and it's well out of date in relation to economic developments on the Wirral. Given that we are actually in the middle of the process of this review, I hope the Cabinet members and the Leader of the Council and officers look again at the proposals and to break into the green belt. Even Professor Gregg's own calculations. If we take the minimum amount of people proposed to bring forward to this development, we still manage to break into a small part of the green belt to produce the amount of houses that are required. I believe, and I think, if we work together and ask the officers and the leadership of this council to go back to government and prove to them that all these figures that they've presented to us are completely wrong. There is no need at all for us to go anywhere near the green belt in the next 5 to 10 years. And that was concluded by the lead officer who was asked the question at the beginning, who agreed with my colleague and leader, Councillor Gilchrist, that we need to look at it properly for the 5, 10 and 15 years. And given that, I'm asking the leadership and the council officers to go back to government after the consultation is finished and give them the points and prove all the information that has been given to us, but their calculations are completely wrong and we don't need to bring into the green belt. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Now, Councillor Phil Davies, you have up to 3 minutes to second the Labour motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I start off by congratulating Councillors Liz Gray, Mary Jordan, Andrew Gardner and Tony Cox on their excellent maiden speeches, and can I once again welcome Councillor Jo Bird to her first council meeting. I'm sure you'll make a fantastic contribution to this council and our group. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to resist the temptation to engage in name calling and party politics, because I actually don't think that advances the debate tonight one iota. I'm going to stick to 3 basic points. First of all, and people have said this around this chamber tonight, the starting point